Hi, this is Jeff Blauette, technical agronomist for Cooperative Farmers Elevator. And on this week's Field Friday segment, I thought we'd talk about one of the major decisions we've got coming up here timing-wise in our soybean crop. We spent a fair amount of time out in corn and making some decisions on our corn crop lately, but these soybeans are really starting to get some growth to them. They're starting to look pretty nice now in some of these fields. There's lots of variability in size and stage, and that's just the symptom of the year. But thought we'd talk about the next decision to be made here. Even with the economic conditions we have today, there are some things we can do that could be a profitable management decision, and I thought we'd discuss those and let you kind of have something to think about there. We've got soybeans here that are kind of edging up on that R3 stage. These beans were planted fairly decent on time, probably mid-May. Pretty nice looking field of beans here, as you can see. But we're getting close to R3 growth stage. You can tell that, we can look at it and give you a stage, but here's a picture of soybeans and what we're looking for. Basically a pod. If it's long enough to tell that it's a pod, not a flower, I would consider that, maybe the quarter-inch long pod at one of the top 4 nodes is kind of the signification of what that R3 stage looks like. And we're right just about at that with this plant here. But the significance of that stage is we haven't seen a lot of aphids show up yet. I expect now after this cool weather we've kind of had here, a little bit average to below average temperatures actually. That's the type of conditions that aphids really like. So if we have aphids starting to show up and we're going to have to start making some insecticide decisions, we also, the timing of the stage of the beans, we've got the best chance of a fungicide response, and we've also probably got a pretty good chance of some foliar micronutrient response from the stuff that we've tested in the past. Data-wise, if you look at our long-term data in our Innovate replicated trials, for soybeans, you look at the chart here, you can kind of see over 6 years worth of data and 12 different sites over those 6 years. We've got an average of 3.5 bushels soybean response to, basically we've been testing mainly Preaxor, which is probably one of the top end fungicides on the market. There are other good fungicides out there, although I will say just because it's a fungicide that you can use on beans does not make them equal. It's got to be one of the top tier to expect these same types of yield responses. But if you look at this long-term average, the range is 1.9 to 5 bushel response. So if you do the economics on that at $8 beans, you stick a plane in the air with the adjuvants, you're probably looking at about a break even with $8 soybeans. Now I know you guys, you're not going to sell beans for $7.50 or $8. You're going to sit on them for a while, or you may have them marketed ahead of time. So if we think about possibly, $10 beans, there was some marketing opportunities earlier this summer, or we're one political decision that changes our tariff situation away from a big bounce in the soybean market. I really do believe that. Whether it'll happen or not, I don't know, but if we can come to an agreement with China, that could change the dynamics of that really quickly. But thinking of that, it's a break even if you stick a plane in the air just for this fungicide application. But if we do make the decision based on insect pressure, if we have aphids bad enough where we want to spray, we're going to do that anyway. You stick that plane in the air for the aphids, we just as well have that extra 3.5 bushel yield response potential with the fungicide in the tank. I know we're kind of sick of spending money at this time of year, but I think it's a management decision that makes economic sense, and we've got a fair amount of data to back that up. If we also look at another alternative that's a little less costly, you can look at the foliar micronutrients. We've focused mainly on Max-In beans. It's a nice mixture of micronutrients that beans respond to and act kind of favorably towards. And it also has a very nice carrier, high fructose corn syrup, that basically allows the maximum amount of that micronutrient applied to the foliage get into the plants. We've got data that we've shown from tissue samples that can verify that. So it's a nice product. With the data that's behind that at a little over 2 bushels, that response has been much more consistent. We really haven't had a lot of variance. It's kind of been 1.5 to, maybe a little over 2.5 bushels of the years we've tested it. And again, it's been in several years, quite a few sites. So we feel fairly confident that that's a good practice and a proven yield responder. So again, just to put a plane in the air for that with the yield response and the costs involved, it's kind of a break even with just that manner. But if we look at, again, if the plane's going to be in the air for sure with the aphid control needed or some other insect that we may come about, then it's a lot easier decision. You need to have that in the tank at minimum, in my opinion, just because of the yield response for a fairly low cost product. So I guess those are some things. Everything is a little tougher with $6, $7 beans. We kind of joke it's getting down that LDP range, but we're actually not even in that mindset from so many years ago. But hopefully we can be more optimistic and have some positive markets going forward. And having all the bushels we can is going to be, probably the most critical piece of having a profitable soybean field. So be aware of the timing, be aware of some of these options. They're not for every field. We understand that, but there are some fields, especially with higher yield potential, that these probably are going to give us some decent yield response potential and hopefully add to profitability. With that, that's our Field Friday for this week. We'll see you next week.